But he didn't have to go that low. If he came to that place and saw an officer and a complement of soldiers, all he needed to do was to ask questions. Why are you here? And if they said, look, we're here on orders, who sent you? Turn around. But he went to that level, going to the level of exchanging words with a young officer, young even, as he admitted, young enough to even be his son. And that was quite inappropriate. Now, that's not to say that he didn't have the right and responsibility to go and inspect things within the Federal Capital Territory, but the level to which he has sunk did not do good to himself, to the ministry, and to the entire country, to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces.
All right, welcome to Naija Unfiltered, and our guest on today's edition is a public affairs analyst, a former foreign service officer, if you like, you can call him. He's a diplomat. Comrade ILya Gadu is our guest today. Good to have you, sir.
Good to have me here too.
It's a pleasure having you. All right, so much has been happening in our polity lately, and of course, the immediate, the one that is dominating the headlines, is the confrontation between the FCT minister and military officer that was assigned on if you like, an assignment, given a job to do. How do you respond to what happened? A general assessment or take on that?
Well, there's a lot that has happened since that incident. But generally, I think if you can summarize it, it's a whole tragedy of errors on the part of those involved, the dramatis personae. In the first instance, let's look at the deployment of the troops there, headed by the Naval lieutenant. I understand, from what has transpired, the naval officer was deployed there by the owner of the property, who happens to be the immediate past chief of naval staff, to prevent access to the property from the authorities of the SPDA, in this case the Diplomat control, and they had reasons to try to see how they could stop work going on there. And the naval officer, the chief of naval officer, retired, decided to prevent that from happening and sent this young man, naval lieutenant, to prevent access to the property. And from what also we got to know was that the property in question was acquired illegally, according to the officials of the FCDA. So that the Diplomat control, which is the outfit of the FCDA responsible for enforcing development of projects, approving and enforcing stopping illegal development of projects, went there to try to enforce the order of the FCT minister to stop work on the project. So of course, they were prevented the first time they got there. And then of course the minister, who has the overall responsibility, went there to try and see how he could, with his bulldozers and everything, to go and see how they could effect that action, and then met the officer. Now, many people have said that the officer should not have been there because it was a matter of dispute, and is trying to obstruct administrative compliance with development control of property development in the FCT, which is purview of development control of FCT. So, but then there's also the allegations that some of these activities by FCT and FCDA, especially the FCT minister, has been that, frequently he has had to, revoke duly approved land and property, and then reallocate those properties, not for public use, but, to private interests. So perhaps maybe the chief of naval staff retired, felt that, look, this can happen to me. I acquired this legally, and I have a right to develop it. And I'm not going to allow myself to be a victim of what has happened before. And so that set the stage for what happened. It's unfortunate because on the part of the minister, it's indecorous of him really, because he had all the necessary, access to the authorities. He said he's in a peer level with the Chief of Naval Staff, with the Chief of Defense Staff, with his fellow ministers, Minister of Defense and Minister of State Defense. You could escalate the matter to those gentlemen, to those personalities, and have this resolved. He could make his case and say, look, hey, I've seen this thing, I think I'm going to intervene. This gentleman is not complying, so this is what I want to do. And of course, so a lot of things happened. It was not really, it didn't cover him, in good light for him to go to that level. Yes, he has a right as a minister, procedurally, yes, he has a right as a minister to go out and check what's happening to ensure that things are done the right way by his, the responsibility of his office. But he didn't have to go that low. If he came to that place and saw an officer and a complement of soldiers, all he needed to do was to ask questions. Why are you here? And if they said, look, we're here on orders, who sent you? Turn around. But he went to that level, going to the level of exchanging words with a young officer, young even, as he admitted, young enough to even be his son. And that was quite inappropriate. And that's, so I think the minister should be censured for what he has done. Now, that's not to say that he didn't have the right and responsibility to go and inspect things within the Federal Capital Territory, but the level to which he has sunk did not do good to himself, to the ministry, and to the entire country, to the president.
I was almost going there to ask whether the minister should face disciplinary action for threatening a military officer, and what are the implications for civilian-military relations?
I think in this case, in most cases, it's always the soldiers that are always being censured for behaviors of this nature. Most times we hear soldiers are the ones, or the military ones are the ones who take the law into their own hands, especially in matters that are supposed to be handled at a very high level. You hear soldiers, beating up people, assaulting people, and then behaving in a manner that's incompatible with their status. But in this case, it is a minister, a highly placed minister, a senior minister, the man who is supposed to be the eye of Nigeria on the world, because he hosts the government, he hosts the diplomatic community, he is the eye of Nigeria. And then to behave in that manner, that's unbecoming. I think it's about time President Tinubu took action against Wike. He has serially misbehaved. I don't want to withdraw that word. He has serially misbehaved. It has come to the point of normality for him to misbehave on matters of this nature. And that is unacceptable. It should be told to him. No matter what he's doing with Tinubu, no matter what usefulness he has for Tinubu, it cannot be at the expense of the image. It cannot be, it cannot be at the expense of the image of Nigeria, at the expense of that ministry, which is supposed to be one of the most important ministries. And that really, we're looking to see Tinubu finally take action on him. Whatever action he wants to take must be commensurate with the type of infraction he committed on that occasion.
You see, some people are saying, oh, military did this. Some people are saying, no, military should have done this. And the military are also reacting. So what do you think?
What I said earlier on was that, look, we have had the situation we have in this country, normal situation we have in this country is that the military are always the ones, culpable when you have military-civilian issues. And this has led the military, I'm not speaking for them anyway, to set up military-civilian sections where they can handle some of these issues, so that when matters of this nature come up, that outfit can handle the issue. But in this case, it's a minister, a civilian minister, that has gone to actually, almost, well, I'll say, assault a military man. And you could see that, if you take a sample of opinions of Nigerians, you find that a lot of people, in fact, over 3/4 of respondents feel that it was we're hard on the side of we're hard against the minister. So it's a reverse situation now. Many more Nigerians feel more sympathy aligned with the military than with the civilian minister. So it's a dangerous development, really, because now it is engendering a situation of civilian ministers, democratic civilian ministers, appointed by the democratic system, being, rough-shouldered, I mean, shrugged aside by the people who ordinarily are supposed to, censure the military for being involved. Normally, it's the military that, is supposed to be censured by the people of Nigeria. But in this case, overwhelmingly, Nigerians are coming hard on the side of the military. And that is why President Tinubu must be very, very careful. Because from the statements that came from top military officers retired and the seeming calm from the military authorities, there is a danger in that. And that the President Tinubu must not be seen to be riding, taking this matter, with levity, as he has done in the past with Tinubu, with Wike, because Wike has behaved in manner on several occasions that does not portray him as, in consonance with democratic principles, with democratic temperament. And that is very dangerous to the government, to the President Tinubu himself, because some of the statements emanating from the military chaps, retired military figures, are dangerous. And we should not allow that to happen. Whatever needs to be done to rein in Wike should be done. That punishment or that censure rests with the president. But this is one incident too many on the part of Wike. He seems to take it as normal to behave in such a manner, and he must be called to question. Otherwise, the consequences of such continued behavior will not be good for the party, for the country, will not be good for President Tinubu himself and the country generally.
Former Chief of Army Staff Tukur Buratai said that Wike's action seriously undermined national security. Is he justified in that comment, or do you think it's a military overreach?
I don't think so. I mean, the military have, a hierarchy of behavior, discipline, loyalty, and respect to authorities. And that what everybody is saying about Wike's behavior is that by behaving the way he behaved, he did not show regard and respect to the uniform. Once he saw the young man out there in uniform, with a complement of his people around him, no matter the situation, he shouldn't have gone down to that level of exchanging words. He should have respected the uniform, because the uniform represents an institution, which is the military, and the military is headed by Mr. President. So, and that gentleman, that young man, is on presidential commission. He's a commission officer. Take that. It's a commission officer. He must be respected by virtue of that. Whoever deployed him there at that point is a matter to be taken up by authorities. Why did you deploy him there? What is he doing guarding, private property? These are questions that have been taken. But by coming out there to behave in that manner, calling him a fool, using expletives and behaving in that manner, no, that's unacceptable. Wike must be made to pay for this action.
All right, and interestingly again, he has come out to say that the land in question was properly allocated to Santos Estate for park and recreation. So after all the noise and the land is duly allocated, what does he reveal about respect for the rule of law in Nigeria?
Well, Wike himself is not even a respecter of rule of law. We've seen instances where he himself have gone against, court judgments, against even, advice from well-placed individuals in Rivers State. I lived in Rivers State. I know that. And he behaves as if, the law or whatever, the law, the institutions of law or institutions of government or governance must bow to him instead of the other way around. We can't have that. We can't have that in this country. If you have sworn by the Constitution, and as a lawyer for that matter, you should behave in a manner that shows that you are a leader and you are an exemplar of rule of law, rules-based system. That's what we are running. That's why we said no, we didn't want the soldiers to be ruling us, but civilians elected by us, civilians that are answerable to us. We should not be answerable to you. Your behavior you must temper your behavior to the needs of the people, to the needs of the constitution to the needs of the laws of the land. You are not the law. You are a servant of the law. You observe what the law says, not make the law. You are not making the law. Even the Senate president cannot be above the law, even though he presides over the institution that makes the law. He is subject to the law. And Wike must be told that he must not, whatever he owes, whatever Tinubu, owes him, whatever he's doing for Tinubu does not remove from the fact that he must do it within constitution, within the laws of the land. And that behavior is unacceptable. It's irresponsible on his part, really. And it must be told to him in clear terms that this is not acceptable. And if the President Tinubu, who has the right, who has the authority to put him and tell him the right things, does not do it, then he's fostering a situation whereby we are endangering democracy. And I believe that's what Buratai and other, not just Buratai, but even General Irabo and other officers have said, and the silence of other officers too says a lot. Because maybe these two generals were asked by their colleagues to say, look, speak on our behalf. Interestingly, these are the two immediate pastors, two chief of defense staffs that during Buhari, and this one was chief of army staff. And it must be clearly stated that Tinubu keeping quiet on this matter is dangerous. It's very, very dangerous, and it must be told to him in clear terms that the idea of looking the other way and hoping that the matter will go, and then tomorrow another thing happens because Wike is important to you in one way or the other. That is not. He's important to you, but if he's going against the constitution and the rule of law, then we have a right as Nigerians to call you to order, because he is serving at the pleasure of Nigerians. He is not. Nigerians should not bow to him. He must follow wherever he has the right to observe or to do his duties. It must be done in a manner that is consistent with democratic principles. It must be done in a manner that is consistent with decorum and respect for the office he occupies. This is not an office that you just behave as if you want. No, you must observe that decorum that is required for the office you occupy.
Probably does this action, the former governorship candidate in Rivers State, Toyeko, sued Wike for 40.5 billion naira for defamation, claiming that Wike defamed him by making false, malicious, and offensive statements about him during a live interview sometime in September. And he said that his statement portrayed him as a thief who diverted and sold Rivers State gas assets at an undervalued rate.
Well, I'm not aware that the case has been vacated or has been, tried and concluded. So whatever I have to say there perhaps might be sub judice. But I would say that it's one example of Wike's recklessness. He has set a score for being reckless with his statements, with his activities, and with his, this typical of what happened the other day. Wike believes because he's, the president is beholden to him. I think that what gives him that, so he can act and with impunity. And because if anything happens to him, because he's so important to Mr. President, that's what he thinks, and that's perhaps what Mr. President also thinks. I cannot let him go. Because of Wike, for instance, the democratic, procedure in Rivers State was suspended. Most of what happened, the reasons that happened, the main reason that happened, that precipitated what happened in Rivers State, was actually due to the making of Wike. And the democratic structures of Rivers State was brought down. Wike, who was also partly responsible for that, was not censured. And you saw what happened. Democratic practice in Rivers State was suspended for 6 months. All because the president wants to please Wike for one reason or the other. Best known to the two of them. But Nigeria cannot have that. You could see that failure to rein Wike at that point has now morphed into what has happened. a couple of days ago. And God knows what's going to happen. He has succeeded in practically, destroying a political party, a foundational political party. The tradition of PDP is the tradition of MPC, MPN, NRC, right up to PDP. It's actually the party of Nigeria. I'm not speaking for them, but I'm just looking at the chronology of politics in Nigeria. All because it's part of the plan for the success of Mr. President, allegedly. But now we are seeing the danger of what, a loose cannon. Because now that the soldiers are beginning to talk, are beginning to, listen, and Nigerians are actually supporting the soldiers, that portends danger. And if it means getting rid of the Wike and say, look, hey, guy, go and cool your heels in order to save our democracy, it's better than to say we're going to keep Wike because he's going to help us win elections, he's going to stop. That is not acceptable. That is too simple-minded. Wike cannot be, our democracy cannot be sacrificed because of Wike. Unless, of course, there's a sinister motive behind it. It must be said in clear terms, Nigerians must stand up and say, look, we fought for this democracy. Some people lost their lives. And it's not one person that should be the beneficiary. It's not for the benefit of one person that this democracy was gotten. We need to say that, look, this democracy must endure. And if we have to make examples of people who are trying to derail this democracy by their own misbehaviors, we must make that point. Because it's for the good of all, not for the good of one or two people. That must be stated clearly. The nation must rise up to say that whatever Wike is doing with you, Mr. President, that's your business. Our own business is to sustain this democracy. We've gotten to the point whereby there are rumblings, there are discussions, there are coded statements. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want to wake up and tomorrow we find. That's what Borate was saying, and Irabo and a few other people. Some have not even said anything, but they're keeping to their minds. And it's dangerous, very, very dangerous to this country. We should not behave as if, well, I'm here, I'm there, so whatever it is, let them talk. It's not on. It's not on.
Supposing Mr. President does not rein in on Wike, as we've seen severally, when you talk about Wike, one or two times, I think once I can remember he did a media chat, and they tried to ask him question about Wike and say, oh, Wike is doing very well. Supposing he does not rein in on him, what happens?
Well, he should. He should be concerned, because if a matter of this nature happened, and the top military brass have come out to say, some people have not come out to say anything because of the sensitivity of their offices, but you know the way the military works. The military works like a herd. They move in one direction. And I can tell you the military is not happy with what has happened. And the military, some of the people who are supposed to speak for the military have come out to say, look, something must be done. He must be reined in. He must be told, especially particularly this incident involving this Naval young man. It must be the threshold point where Mr. President should now do something about Wike. We are not begging him. Nigerians are not begging him. They are telling him, for the sake of democracy that we are practicing, Wike is taking much more than he can chew. And himself and his reactions to what happened has not been helpful, because he said that if President Tinubu is not ready to protect him, he's going to resign. If he wants to resign, fine. Good luck. Let him go back to Obiakpo, in Port Harcourt, where he comes from, and tend to his fish farm or tend to his hotel in Port Harcourt, rather than allow him to come and his shopping mall here. Rather than to allow him, because you want to achieve some dubious political aims, to come and wreck our hard-earned democracy. I was also a victim of that democratic struggle. So he must be reined in. Tinubu is being told in coded words that you must rein this guy that is running amok in this thing. And this idea of saying he's doing a good job does not resonate well with Nigerians. You could see from what happened. Nigerians are not with Wike, and that negativeness might rub off on Tinubu. So he should not stay in an echo chamber somewhere and expect that, no, this thing will pass. It's a graduated series of, tragedies that may not be good for this country. And Mr. President should hit that. After all, it happens in many countries, even in Nigeria, where some ministers or some people who have become so too big for their shoes. You tell them, okay, Mr. Man, go and cool your heels somewhere else. Look at the bigger picture. Don't look at yourself. Look at Nigerians. Because tomorrow, if Wike is allowed to go on the way he's going on, now a very important institution than the military is now looking at Wike ruefully. And Mr. President is sitting down there, has not made any statements, not even normal statement from his aides that we used to see, we used to hear. And this is happening, and he's just keeping quiet.
All right, let's move on the state of the nation, kind of. 2 years plus. The president has not appointed ambassadors. What does it say of this government and, of course, our image in the global community?
It says that this government is a dysfunctional government. Dysfunctional in the sense that the right things to be done that should have been done have not been done. And we see the effect of that, that error of judgment. Nigeria is a very important country to the world. It is the largest economy in Africa. It is one of the most strategic, if not the most strategic country in Africa. There are a lot of things happening around the world that Nigeria's input is required. Mr. President himself has even gone out of this country to go and sign agreements with countries, with global institutions. So, the fact that we do not have full diplomatic representations in our embassies is unfortunate. It's a tragedy of enormous proportions. You could see what happened now in America, where this issue of alleged Christian genocide, if we had an ambassador there operating fully at that full diplomatic level, this issue could have been tracked and there have been follow-ups. Because there are areas, there are certain parts, certain countries where somebody who's not of ambassadorial level would not be allowed to go. And if he's gone, you just take him, they just receive him as a matter of courtesy. But you need an ambassador. The ambassador represents the country in that jurisdiction. And that is why you need an ambassador. 2 years without ambassador is symptomatic of the kind of dysfunction that this government is. It's a serious tragedy. Because what we are saying, what really, the import of it is that, look, we don't have an eye to the world. We don't have an eye to the world. The world thinks look, BRICS, we're a member of BRICS. We're a member of G20. There are several organizations that we belong to that we need to follow up on our membership and our requests. There is a movement now to expand the Security Council of the United Nations. There are lots of things happening. We don't have full diplomatic representation in these areas. And this is not, it's untenable, whatever excuse. The other day, the foreign minister was saying, oh, there are lots of issues regarding, funding and regarding backlog of payments and all that. But the truth is, we've spent so much money on other things. The representation in our embassies is quite germane. It's as good as even having a government there itself. Especially in some of those important countries that we have trade relations, very heavy trade relations with, commercial relations, economic relations, strategic, political, military, and you don't have an ambassador there. Come on, what are you doing? That shows that you are not a serious country. You don't want to engage the world in a meaningful way. You are sloppy about what the world thinks about you and what you think about the world. You just want to stay in a cocoon. And that is unfortunate. And if this incident with Trump has not shown Mr. President the need to have ambassadors as quickly as possible, then I'm sorry for this country.
Let's look at the excuse that there is no money that the government has given, and that is why they've not been able to appoint ambassadors, related to the endless borrowing. As of June this year, our borrowing was, our total debt stock was 152.39 trillion naira. And just the other day, 2 days ago, the Senate approved 1.15 trillion naira for the president for domestic debt again. Borrowing, borrowing, borrowing. And yet we say we have no money. What's your take on this?
Are we saying that relating to the world is not important anymore? Are we saying that following up of some of the issues that affect our country internationally and globally is not important? Are we saying that we're going to exist as an island? We cannot follow up some of the issues that are happening in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in emerging economies and all that? Are we saying that that is not important? We're only interested in what is happening in our country? Are we saying that international relations is not part of our purview? We don't want to do it again because it's not important, we don't have money. So what's all that money for? You can't even allocate. I mean, you could use this opportunity to say, okay, yes, while we may not have money to run all the embassies, but some critical embassies, we need to have full diplomatic relations there, full diplomatic representations there, because these are countries that we must not keep our eyes off because of the importance, strategic importance, economic importance they pose to us. So if you are saying, well, we don't want to have an ambassador in Washington, D.C., we don't want to have an ambassador in Berlin, in UK, in Paris, in India, a Commonwealth country like ours, with similar developing. We don't want to even have, representation in countries where a lot of our people live and work, students, businessmen, all that. Is that what we're saying? Then why are we a country? Why are we a country if we do not have a diplomatic? Then we can spend a lot of money on some things that do not have commensurate weight. We've seen it. We borrow all that money. We cannot even use that money to follow up on our diplomatic presence in critical areas of global interaction. Are we saying that? Is that what we're saying? It's unimportant. We prefer to enter wherever there's a problem, we just hop on a jet, go there and solve it, and then come back. Who will follow up? Why do you have ambassadors in the first place? They represent the country. The president does not have to be in every country in the world. That is why you have ambassadors, especially in grade A, in foreign service, we call them grade A embassies, because of the level of importance. And that importance graduates to economic, military, whatever. And you don't have an ambassador that would take Mr. President's message, to follow up Mr. President's message. Look at what is happening in America now with this Trump issue. Why is the ambassador in Washington? Who can lobby? America is a country of lobbyists. Lobbyists. If you have an ambassador who has an inroad to some of the lobby groups, the oil lobby, the agricultural lobby, the military lobby, and other groups. Some of these things that we're facing, challenges we're facing in the global stage, would be better managed. But you don't have anybody in Washington, D.C., and then you are blaming Trump for making those threats against our country. And you don't have even a follow-up because they feel that, why should they have an ambassador? It's reciprocal, my friend. Why should they have an ambassador here and you don't have an ambassador there? What rationale? Are you going to say because you don't have money and you are spending that money in frivolous ways? Nobody is convinced. It's just a matter of the dysfunctional nature of this government. That is why it's happened. And it's a government that is, has restricted itself to its own personal, to a kind of narrow interests, not the national interest. The national interest presupposes that we must look at the country, we must look at issues and policies based on what is the best for the country, not based for what is good for somebody or a few individuals. That is issue at stake here now. Before the world can take us serious, we must take ourselves serious before the world can take us serious. But we are not doing that. We have relegated the people. We think that what we say, by virtue of figures, cooked up figures, cut and paste policy wonks, is what government, will be what the government is all about. This is not. The people are not participating. They are not being brought into the governance system. It's about contracts, about this, about that. Not directly engaging to the people, not inclusive. And that is why this government is making mistakes. All the time, it makes a policy, it goes back again. Because it's not well thought of. It's the idea of some, people with primordial thinking. People who do not take the country into consideration. They take their own interests into consideration. And that is why the government is faltering on almost every policy. It makes a policy on pardoning, it goes back on it. It makes a policy on 15% tariff, it goes back on it. It makes appointment. You find out that the people you appointed to those positions, there was no due diligence about what their background. We don't run a government like this. It's a democracy. Even the military didn't run this government like that. So I think President Tinubu, who has the responsibility to Nigerians, must sit up. He must be able to engage with Nigerians. We Nigerians are not interested in all those figures that have been bandied about. Oh, we have this, we have that. No, they are more interested to see it working, to see themselves involved. Tap from the energies of Nigerians. Engage the youth. Engage Nigerians to construct, to do a lot of things in this country. That is how development is brought about. Not when you sit down, you bandy figures, and you say this is development. People don't see it. So I believe that the government should go back, be more engaging, be more inclusive, and try to get people to be part of what it's doing, and to not this insular silo mentality that this government, runs. I think it's in the long run, there's going to be a blowback to it.
What are your fears and the threats as we head to 2027 election?
Well, you can't bet against Nigeria. It's a country that has confounded even some of its worst critics, because it's like the country is always on the verge of, one incident or the other, but somehow it confound critics, and all that. One time they even said Nigeria was not going to exist by 2015. Now we're still here, and I believe it's going to be that. But the political leaders must not take chances. They must not believe that everything is hunky-dory, everything is fine. We can go ahead and do whatever we want to do. Well, let's look at the political scene, for instance. What is happening in the political scene does not give anybody encouragement, because we see deliberate moves being made, and people trying to say no, trying to say no, we are not involved. But we know very well that there is a tendency towards a one-party state. Let's not deceive ourselves. People who think they are deceiving us by making statements contrary, they are only deceiving themselves. There is a deliberate move towards creating a one-party state, and that is not good. The essence of democracy is we must have plurality of views of political parties. Forget about what anybody is telling you. It's just pretense. They are moved towards destroying political opposition. It doesn't augur well for this country. That's on the political scene. And they are moved towards making sure that results of election are predetermined by premeditated actions. It's there. It's there. The signs are there. So let nobody take us for granted and believe that what he's saying is the truth. No. So then the economy is almost tanking. Everything is going up, and the government does not even have a blueprint, an economic blueprint of transforming this country. So at the end of the day, the future looks gloomy. But at the same time, I believe in the resilience of Nigeria. I believe that somehow we are irrepressible people. We are irresponsible, and that is what our leaders must realize. You can't break the Nigerian spirit, no matter how hard you try. It has been tried before, it failed, and this too will fail. Let Nigerians thrive more when you allow them to express themselves, whether by virtue of their actions, by virtue of, their abilities. That's the resilience that we, a few weeks ago, we were talking about apprehensive about whether Trump was going to hit us. Today, we're talking about Wike. Maybe in the next moment, and then today. That's the Nigerian spirit. Always happening. Something's always happening. It's a vivacious country. It's a country where there's never a dull moment. And that is down to the resilience of the Nigerians. But if you try to suppress Nigerians by virtue to be able to achieve your own personal interest, you see the result. And it will not be pleasant for you. Because it has happened before. We saw it during the MPN days, when they tried to do what they call landslide or moonslide or whatever. And at the end of the day, look at what happened. So I think the political leaders should not take things for granted. Should not take Nigerians for granted. Should not take the country for granted. So let them do the right thing. Let them not try to tinker with the democratic principles that have taken us from 1999 to date. We are supposed to be over certain things now. But it appears that things are, the dark days of the past is rearing its ugly head. And we must be careful. We must be careful. The signs on the horizon are not good. But I can tell you that the irrepressible resilience of Nigerians will always prevail.
Well, let's wrap up this way. Do you see President Tinubu returning in 2027?
That is with God, with Allah, with Chineke, Olodumare. He is the one that decides whether Tinubu is going to return. I cannot tell you as a human being that Tinubu is going to come back on 27. He would want to come back in 27, but it's in the lap of the gods that whether he's going to come back. I talking to you today, I might not be there tomorrow. So I would not want to assume that. But I would say that, well, he would, regardless of the fact that he wants to come back 27, and it's making effort towards that, which is quite normal, which is quite natural, but it all depends on God, And if we Nigerians, and I think all of us Nigerians, believe in God, which I believe so, then we should put everything to him. He has the final say on what the affairs of men.